All right, hi folks. I'm going to get started here. For the next 20 minutes or so, I'm going to be doing a little demo of one of our tools from Texthelp called OrbitNote. TV's being a little flickery, so bear with me. So today's session is called Transform Your Documents with OrbitNote. Quick QR code up here. Kier is walking around and is going to get everybody scanned, but you're also welcome to scan that QR code up there. We've got some resources on our other products that we make here at Texthelp. We're also, of course, in the booth, so you're in the exhibit hall, so you're welcome to stop by and see more from us than what I will be able to cover in just our 20 minutes together today. So my name's Kathleen. I am our product manager at Texthelp for OrbitNote, as well as another one of our literacy tools called Read and Write. So I work with our software developers who are, the guys that are building our software, and, I'm sort of the voice of our users and our customers like yourselves. So I kind of help guide them in what we need to be working on, what changes we need to make to the products, what new features we want to make. And I'm really excited today to be showing you one of our newest tools at Texthelp, which is OrbitNote. So OrbitNote is all about really bringing your digital documents to a new level through creation, conversion, and connection. We have a lot of different supports built into OrbitNote that I'm going to show you today that allow students to interact with digital documents like PDFs, understand content, get literacy supports, annotate and collaborate and communicate. So all those types of things, really allow them to take something static like a PDF and really bring it alive and bring it to a new level and make it more engaging. The reason that OrbitNote kind of came into being was sort of a direct result of the pandemic. We saw a huge shift toward remote learning, the use of learning management systems. Students could no longer fill out a physical paper that their teacher passed out to them in the classroom and then, write on it and turn it back in. So schools were seeking, a more digital way to do those kinds of workflows, and OrbitNote fits that need exactly because it allows students to do all of those things digitally in PDFs. So what does OrbitNote do? What are some of the things that I'm going to show you today? OrbitNote has a variety of supports and tools in it, including the ability to read text aloud on PDFs. It makes it really easy for teachers and educators to create and share digital worksheets. It's got a bunch of different input tools in it that allow students to interact with content in different ways and demonstrate their understanding. So things like being able to add text, drawings, shapes, even their own voice into a worksheet. It makes it easy to collaborate and leave feedback. And then it also works really well alongside Texthelp's other tools. So if you're familiar with Read and Write or even Equatio, those other literacy and STEM tools that Texthelp offers work really nicely in the OrbitNote environment. So let's hop out of our slides here and actually take a look at the OrbitNote tool. So I'm going to be sticking it in the Chrome browser today. OrbitNote is a Google app. It also works in the Edge browser if you're a Microsoft district, but I'm going to stick with Chrome today. But just know that our Texthelp tools kind of work, they work everywhere. So if you are a Google school, a Microsoft school, more of a desktop user, or even iPad, we have tools that will work in those environments. So the easiest way for me to get started with using OrbitNote is I'm just going to go to my OrbitNote dashboard, which is orbit.texthelp.com. And you're all welcome to try this on your devices as well. So the first time I get here, it's going to ask me to sign in. It'll have me, grant a few permissions, and then it's going to bring me to my OrbitNote dashboard. So this is sort of my getting started page, my home base. And now I have a few different ways that I can choose a PDF that I want, that I maybe want to start using OrbitNote with. So if I have a PDF on my desktop, I can grab it from here. If I want to open a file from Google Drive, or if I'm a Microsoft user, I would have an option here to open from OneDrive. But I could also just go to my Google Drive. I usually keep a tab open with Google Drive pretty much all the time. Let's say I want to open up this PDF. I'm going to right-click on that and choose Open with OrbitNote. And that's going to open up that document inside my OrbitNote viewer. So here's my document. Now, one thing that I want to note that's really important about PDFs is not all PDFs are the same. Not all PDFs are sort of a quality or in like a state that's ready to be used with a tool like OrbitNote. Is anyone familiar with the idea of like an inaccessible PDF or an image PDF? Yeah, a lot of nods in the group there. Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, at least from my standpoint, just from I used to do tech support for Texthelp, so I would work with our customers on tech issues they were having. Like one of the top things that we would see is a teacher or somebody working with a student trying to open up a PDF, and they're saying, I'm trying to highlight the text so I can read it out loud, but I can't grab any of the text in this document. None of my read and write tools, none of my OrbitNote tools are working. And it's because the PDF is an image PDF or it's inaccessible. But luckily, OrbitNote has a really easy tool in here that sort of takes the mystery away from why that document isn't working, and it just gives me a simple option here to scan because it can't find any text. So I'm going to click Let's Scan, and then I can choose my language depending on whatever language that document's in. I'm going to click Scan, and then just in a couple seconds, this is a short document. If it were like a 10-page PDF, you'd probably want to go grab a cup of coffee and then come back. But for a quick document like this, it just goes through a simple scan process. And now I'm going to use my text-to-speech tool on the toolbar. And then I can just click anywhere on that document.
Before beginning these arguments, I need to clarify
and it's just going to be able to read that text.
An adequate environmental ethics.
So that scanning or that OCR or optical character recognition process is so important because without it, our students are going to be trying to work with PDFs that just aren't going to allow them to do things like read and highlight and look up words in the dictionary. So that scanning bit is so important, and OrbitNote makes that super easy just with that little notification right in the document. And now I can use the rest of my OrbitNote tools with this page. I'm going to go ahead and actually jump over to a different document to show you some of the other tools here. So I'm going to open an OrbitNote, and this, I think this one is, let's see. Yeah, so now we've got something that looks more like an article. So maybe this is an article that I need to read for an assignment or for research that I'm doing. So this PDF is not image-based. It's already, ready to go. I can highlight the text. I can click on it. So now let's see some of these other tools that are on the toolbar that I can use to interact. The next grouping of tools here, so first I covered our text-to-speech. So this is what's going to allow me to just click on the document and hear it read aloud. The next grouping of tools here, these are my read and write literacy supports. So OrbitNote works alongside one of our other tools that Texthelp offers called Read and Write. Read and Write is a literacy toolbar with 15 or so different reading and study and productivity supports, and it works, pretty much everywhere. So if students use Read and Write, they will get the toolbar in Google Docs. They'll get it on websites. They'll get it in Word docs. So the same thing goes now if they're in OrbitNote. They're going to get additional literacy tools in OrbitNote. So that means if I were reading along in this document, maybe I encounter a word that I'm not familiar with. I can click on that word and I can come up to my dictionary, and this is going to give me one or several definitions for that word. Anytime I see a little play button, that means I can hear that content read aloud.
Adjective. To do with schools, universities or colleges, the new
So that's my dictionary. I also have a picture dictionary. So if I'm someone that's going to learn better visually, I could click on an unfamiliar word, come up to my picture dictionary, and that's going to give me just some images or symbols. We use the Widget Communications Library, which is a huge database of, just kind of simple images and pictorial representations of words. I could even kind of post this window up on the side here, and as I'm reading, anytime I find a word that I don't know, I can click on that word and then it'll automatically update and give me an image. So a really nice way for students who maybe learn better visually to be able to see a picture and better understand vocabulary. I also have a single word translator. So I could click on a word and come up to my translator. And this, I've got it set to Spanish. There's a variety of different languages in here I can choose from. And then again, just a simple click.
Prensado.
And I can hear what that word sounds like. Now, one feature I like that kind of puts the three of those together is the vocabulary tool. So let's say I'm reading and I've encountered a lot of words that I need some extra practice with or that I'm not familiar with. I'm going to use my highlighters to highlight what those words are. So anytime I see one of those words, I'm just going to click on it and then choose a color, and that adds a highlight into my document. So we'll go back and do a budget. Just a few other examples here. Once I've highlighted a few of these words, I'm going to come up and click on this Vocab button. So what this does is it's automatically grabbing those, 4 words that I picked from my PDF, and it automatically builds a vocabulary chart. So now I have a new Google Doc or a Word doc if I'm a Microsoft user. I've got a new document with a vocabulary chart, so it includes those 4 words that I highlighted. It includes the dictionary definitions, and it includes the images from the picture dictionary, and an extra column for notes, or maybe I want to change this to say use in a sentence. Maybe I want to put a translation there, add my own definition that makes sense to me, add more pictures. This is now my document that I can, work with and manipulate however I want to. So that's a great study tool, if you think about like flashcards and, kind of paper versions of things that allow students to get more vocab practice with just one click on that vocab button, and I've got a vocabulary chart in a document in Google Drive. Another great way that the highlighters can be used that I really like, and I personally would have benefited from this a lot, like if I think back to when I was in college, I can also use those highlighters. Maybe I just want to highlight bigger chunks of text for research, or maybe I want to highlight key information that's important in this article. So I could go through and I could highlight. Maybe I want to use one color for main ideas, another color for supporting details. There's plenty of different ways I could choose kind of what to assign each of those colors to. So I'm going through, I'm highlighting important information. And now I want to actually keep that information somewhere. If I had a document open somewhere else, I could be taking notes or copy pasting. But watch what else I could do with OrbitNote. I'm going to use this collect button. So I'm going to choose which of those colors I want to include. I can also choose how to sort them. So I can either group the similar colors together, or I could keep them in the same order that they appeared in the document. So I'm going to group them by color. I'm going to click OK. And then same here, it's taking a second to just grab all those highlights, and then it spits them right into a new document. So I've got all of that information that's important to me. I even have a link back to the original source. So when it comes time for me to do a bibliography or cite my sources, I know exactly where this information came from. So yeah, I would have loved having this when I was in college for sure. It would have saved me a lot of time. And if you think about if you had a physical textbook, or if students are doing reading on physical, papers or physical handouts, they could certainly use a highlighter pen. But that concept of just being able to scoop up that information and pull it into one document, that's something that there really isn't a non-digital equivalent for. And that's why OrbitNote is so great and really elevates what you can do with your documents. Now, the last sort of grouping of tools on the toolbar here that I want to cover are my annotation tools. So these are going to allow me to actually write or type or draw directly on top of this PDF. So this is great, especially for something that looks, maybe more like a worksheet. But so going from left to right here, the first one that I'll start with is my shapes tool. So I can use this to draw circles, squares, lines on my PDF. Maybe I want this fill color to be transparent for my next shape. I can just draw a box around any of that text there. Maybe I want to do some circles as well. The next tool is a pen tool. So this one's going to allow me to just scribble or draw. If I'm on a touch device, I can use my touch screen, or I could just use my mouse or my cursor. And then that is going to allow me to just scribble and draw on that PDF. Then I also have an eraser tool. So, if I make a mistake, I can just click to erase individual shapes, or just, kind of like a real eraser, hold down and scribble across the screen so that I can erase any work that I've done. And then the last two tools here are for adding text onto my into my PDF. So I'm just going to scroll down, find some white space here. The text tool, we'll do this one first. I'm going to click somewhere in the document, and this is going to allow me to open up a little text box. So I'm going to make a very creative note here. I can rearrange this on the page. Notice when I'm inside of this text area, I have additional supports and additional tools available to me. So I can change the font size, I can change the font color, but I've also got some really cool literacy supports here as well. So I have a play button. If I want to make sure to proofread my work, make sure I didn't make any mistakes, I can click that play button.
Make a note.
And hear my work read back to me before I go ahead and save it or share it with my teacher. And again, same with these tools up here that are my read and write supports. I also have some read and write supports that are built into any time that I'm typing in a document. So I have word prediction. I can turn that on and it will suggest words as I type. And it'll read those words aloud. I also have a dictation tool. So if I'm someone who struggles with typing, or I would just prefer to kind of speak and have words written out for me, I can turn that on. And then it will just take down my words as I speak, period. So really, really great ways for students to get those writing supports, especially if they struggle, with the physical mechanics of typing or just kind of getting their thoughts out. A lot of really great tools for them that are going to support them anytime they're doing a PDF worksheet. And then I can also do a Pushpin Note. So the Pushpin Note is pretty similar to the text tool. The only difference here is here I can make a Pushpin Note. And when I click away, rather than showing the text right on the document, it's just going to hide it behind a little red pushpin. So maybe that's something that, if you're working with students, you want to leave little extra hints or additional instructions for them inside of an assignment. The Pushpin Note's a really easy way to do that. And when they come into the document, they can just click on it to see what it says. And then the very last thing that I almost forgot to go over is the comments tool. So just like a Google Doc or a Word doc where users can comment and communicate and go back and forth, we can do that in OrbitNote too. I'm going to click anywhere in here and it's going to give me a little pink icon. And now here is my comment box. So I can type in a comment. Notice again I have my word prediction and my dictation here. I can insert images, insert links to other files. But the one that I really want to make sure I cover is the voice note tool. So I could record up to a minute of my voice here. So, if this were something that looked more like a worksheet, students could use this to, dictate or record their responses. Teachers could use it to provide feedback. So, imagine being able to just record up to a minute of my voice for my student to listen to. That's much better than, just reading out some not as personalized feedback. So I can record up to 60 seconds. When I click comment, it's just going to pop that in there as a little side comment with a play button. So then I can go back and listen to it later. Or if I share it with someone else, they'll be able to listen to it as well. So, a lot of great tools to kind of fly through in our 20 minutes here, but, these are all of those supports inside of OrbitNote. You've got your text-to-speech, you've got your literacy supports through read and write. I didn't really even get a chance to show this, but Equatio, Texthelp's math and STEM editor, works in OrbitNote as well. So if you have PDF math worksheets, Equatio can be used to insert, equations and formulas and math content right into a PDF. And then, of course, you have all of those additional annotation tools for adding text and voice and, making documents readable with OCR scan. And I'm really excited about OrbitNote. It's a new product. We only just released it over the summer. And we have a really exciting roadmap kind of planned out ahead of us of new features. We're going to be adding additional integrations for learning management systems. So if you are a Canvas district, we're going to be doing a Canvas integration. We're going to add new tools like the ability to insert images, digital signatures, more integration with Microsoft, like Microsoft Teams and SharePoint. And so a lot of really exciting things coming down the road. So I think that's all I have time for today. I'm happy to stick around if anybody has questions, or you can head down to the Texthelp booth as well if you want to learn more about any of our solutions. And thank you all for joining me today.